Hey there, Dan. And we got Allie running again. So someone asked me what I got going on here because I guess they didn't understand the project or what the problem was, why the engine was giving me some trouble. She's a little sweaty and dirty right now because I haven't really taken time to clean it, so bear with me on that. So 2276 engine. This is probably the fifth version of this motor. Had lots of help from many very helpful people. Unfortunately, I don't always listen to smarter people than I, so I apologize for that. At any rate, got a 2276, like I said. It's got LS2 coils, so there's no distributor. You'll see just a reader. This came from the Dub Works, or the Dub Shop. That's right. So go to the dubshop.com. Mario's got all sorts of cool stuff. Had an issue with the crank sensor. That's kind of where all this started. Basically, over the winter, I took the motor out, and when I put it back in, because I had to fix a few things, I routed the wiring for the crank sensor incorrectly. So that was my fault. So it was picking up a lot of the spark from the coil packs, and it was disrupting the crank sensor. I took this as an opportunity to upgrade the crank sensor framework, because even though it looked pretty awesome, I never really liked the crank sensor setup that I had on there. Plus, I really didn't like the MST serpentine belt setup that I had on there. It just never worked for me. It was nothing but trouble. So I went back to my good buddies at CB Performance, who they might not have the prettiest setup, but I gotta admit it's rock solid and it just works. The only challenge is they sent me a VR sensor with this system. The VR system is a 2-wire system. This actually makes its own power. This is a Hall sensor. Hall sensor actually has a 3rd wire for power, so it doesn't make its own power. It just reads. This one actually makes its own power. Supposedly, the VR sensor is more accurate. That is why CB Performance uses the VR sensor, and I respect that. But the VR sensor also is very susceptible to noise, and Allie makes a lot of noise. Even from the starter, there's just noise everywhere. So this just didn't work, and this started this whole... at first I was like, shouldn't be noise anyway, so why not start trying to cut the noise down? With the help of Scott Wolforth, I went through all the wiring, redid all the wiring to the coil packs, kind of went through the wiring for the fuel injectors. I switched these out. These are the 2 wires to the crank sensor and the cam sensor. Those are your crank sensor, those are your cam sensor. These are shielded. These are actually wires that they use for like USB ports, long wires. These are basically made for the very purpose of getting rid of noise from the wiring. So I did that. The VR sensor, I just could not get it to work. I got it to run once with the VR sensor, and I still had issues as far as high RPM. Allie, I generally set the red line at around 6,000 RPM. Of course, you can go higher, but we generally don't do that because we want to keep it around for a little bit. You know that RPM stands for ruin people's motors. So anyway, the crank sensor here I got from Summit Racing. This is a Hall sensor. As soon as I hooked this up, everything started working again. It was a beautiful thing. Now that these wires are not near the coils, I don't have the high RPM cutout, so that's a beautiful thing. And you'll notice I switched to a regular V-belt, and it's a funny looking V-belt. It's kind of like an industrial grade V-belt. Couple things about these. I have some thoughts on this. For me, if I set this to kill, you can always know when I have Allie set to kill, because I'll take the air cleaners off, so I just have the velocity stacks, and I'll loosen up the belt, because at high torque, when I first give it the goal, the guns there, I want slippage. I want this to slip because the alternator takes power away from the engine. So this belt actually works really well with slipping, and even though it'll work really fine when it's set up for road use, in a race application, when I really get on it, it will slip, which is a good thing in this particular motor. Plus, this motor runs really cool anyway. I can actually run it without the belt if I'm really going for the gold. So those are most of the changes I made. I'll show you how nice she starts and runs now. She really is working well, and I got the exhaust cutout working as well. But everything's doing what it should for a change. Now it's ready to clean it up and button it up and get it ready for the road again. So I'll start her up for you. Got a pretty good idle. As you can see, got everything synced up. Everything's doing what it should be doing. Let's see what it sounds like with the open exhaust. That's Allie running good. So that's pretty much everything. Of course, I do have it set up for running on ethanol if I wish, which right now it's not running on ethanol, but I can and I have, and it runs real nice. Actually runs cooler on ethanol, which is what I like. And I think it's been a rough year so far for everything, including this car. So I feel like we finally accomplished something, and I think it's time to really start enjoying the car. So thanks out to Mario and to everyone else that's helped. Scott Wolforth really put in a lot of time on this. I really appreciate that. And of course, Steve Norris built the short block on it and did a really good job on the oiling situation in there. I highly recommend his work. Machine work is amazing. And really, all these guys have helped me out a lot. And the only thing holding the car back has always been me, because I'm still learning. I'm an old guy learning new technology, and it's starting to come together. So I'm learning as we go, and everyone else is just kind of guiding me on the right path, which I appreciate. And before you know it, we'll be really enjoying this car. Maybe not this year, but definitely next year. I intend to enjoy it a little bit this year, but with all this stuff going on, we all know that it's going to be a challenge. So anyway, I just want to give everybody a quick update. And yeah, I probably will do some runs with the car and videotape those runs, but I still have a little bit to clean up and button up and just make sure she's ready. And yeah, then I'll do a few runs. And we'll have some fun. Just remember, nobody that does any racing really shows everything the car can do. See you later.